Snooker loopy, that's our we're all snooker loopy. Yeah, well, apparently, according to two cockneys, we were all snooker loopy. Yeah, let's take a look at some Commodore 64 snooker, pool and billiard games. Now, kicking things off, this is American 3D Pool. This was released in 1991 by Zeppelin Games. Now, I did buy this at the time. I think it was £2, £3, something like that. You can see there, you do the lining up part using a top-down view, and then you get the actual, you know, the sort of the highlights of the movement itself through the 3D. Now, me and my mates played this quite a bit. It is actually quite impressive looking. It's just a shame that they weren't able to, you know, to actually make it that you could actually line up using the 3D view. I don't know whether that would have made the game too slow. So basically, you know, it is a 2D game, but you're getting the highlights in 3D, which still makes it look really, really nice. But we put a lot of time into this. It certainly felt quite like real pool. So really enjoyed this at the time. So yep, moving on. This is billiard. Yeah, this was released in 1985. I don't actually have a name of the company. It's also in German. It was coded by Bernard Tertelmann, something like that. Now, it doesn't look the most exciting game in the world, but if you've ever played billiards, which I fortunately haven't, it's not the most interesting game in the world. I dare say playing it might be more fun, but I think the idea of sort of billiards is to actually cannon other balls, you know, cannon the two balls off each other, and you know, all that kind of nonsense. I mean, you can see there are not even any pockets in this particular version, but yeah, it's not my idea of fun. I mean, I've got to say the actual physics of this particular game, it's pretty good, but it's probably more down to the fact that there's actually only 3 sort of moving objects on the screen. But yeah, I dare say as far as billiards game go, this is a very, very good one. But you know, I think unless you're into billiards, I think you would probably find this pretty tedious. Right, next one. This is billiards again. This one, it's by a company called Alma Computers, or Alma Compute. Now, it actually looks like they've taken the same engine. I mean, you know, I know there's very little to actually choose from, but the balls look identical, and even the sort of options at the top, it looks to me like they've actually just bought the game engine off the other guy and tarted it up slightly. You know, they've, rather than using the Commodore 64 font, they've sort of created their own font, which certainly gives it a more professional look. But yeah, I really can't think of anything more dull than playing billiards on a computer, and this game probably demonstrates that. But like I says, I think it's, you know, it's for the die-hard billiard fans only. Yeah, I think the idea is you control the white ball, and you've got to try and hit the 2 object balls together, or you've got to make the white hit off one, then like that I've hit the 2 balls, I think I get a point, something like that. Yeah, you get a point for doing that. It's all very exciting. But of course, a lot of the best snooker players started off life playing billiards. Yeah, which is why half of them are as dull as dishwater. But anyway, enough about that. I used to quite enjoy playing snooker and whatnot back in the day. I never actually played billiards. Right, moving on. This is now, I thought this was called Pool. I remember getting a copy of this game. This is by Commodore. You can see there, released in 1983. Now, this is actually a very, very good pool game. Oops, I have to just swap the joystick there for a second. There we go, we're in business now. So you line up obviously you can move the white ball, you line up the cursor, and then you choose your strength, pull back the joystick. Now, it only seems to have, I think, 3 sort of speeds or power levels. You can't actually adjust it, you know, sort of, you know, kind of in a smaller smaller amount. I don't know what game I'm playing here. I'm kind of nominating a colour and then nominating a pocket. But this, I got this game quite late on. I got a copy of it from my mate's school, and I played this quite a lot. It's actually quite a nice game. The graphics are crispy clear. The balls actually look quite round. You know, when you consider the Commodore 64 probably couldn't do a perfect circle, this is actually not too bad. Lots of different options. This is just kind of straight pool, whatever it is. You've got to nominate a ball, a coloured ball, and then nominate what pocket you want to put it into. Now some people, there's probably a lot of people, absolutely loathe a snooker game. They wouldn't see the point of playing snooker on a computer, and I can kind of get where people are coming from, but it's the same with anything. I mean, would a decathlete say that shaking a joystick is like a real decathlon? I wouldn't think so. Would match day or international soccer be deemed as like real football? I wouldn't think so. But you know what? It gives you a flavour of the sport. So, right, this one here. What is this called? This is. I'm trying to see what this was. Is this Championship? Yeah, this is Championship 3D Snooker. Now again, this is made by the same company that made the previous one. This was actually the sequel to American 3D Pool. It uses the same game engine, whereby, oops, I've just made a complete arse of the power. This time it's rather than pool, you're playing snooker. And I think because of the size of the balls, etc., they've had to make the you've only got how many? Six red balls as opposed to 15. You see there's a bit more, you know, flashing of the sort of the sprites. Oh, there's a bit more movement going on. And once again, the 3D aspect is purely just for show. You don't actually get to line up the shots in 3D, unfortunately. But it does kind of give you quite a good feeling of playing real pool or snooker, because you're lining up, but then you actually get to see the shot in 3D, which is quite nice. Full shot. I don't think I've ever actually had this one. It was the one I had was the pool version, which did play a bit better because obviously there was, you know, quite a few less balls on screen. I'd almost say that this is more like a kind of an arcadey type pool game, just because of the, you know, the sort of 3D effect. But again, for a budget game, actually really good fun. Right, that was Championship 3D Snooker. This one here, crazy shot. Now this game, this is actually a sort of, this is based on my favourite, or the game that I played a lot back in the day, called Hustler, which we shall look at later on. But oddly, they've changed the graphics. Instead of hitting balls, you're hitting wee smiley faces. It's programmed by the same guy, a guy called Nick Strange. But for whatever reason, they've, you know, for the foreign market, they've decided to give the balls little faces, which I have got no idea why they decided to do that. It plays identical. The cursor, rather than little crosshairs, now this big asterisk type thing. But it just looks a bit silly with the faces. They should have just stuck with normal balls. But for the simplicity, it actually plays quite well. As you can see, I'm on fire here, so until I made a complete arse of that. So that was a crazy shot. This one, this is Q-Boy, and it was published in 1993 by Codemasters. Quite a lot going on there on the main screen. You've got a little photograph, you've got a wee mini TV and that kind of stuff. Never played this before. Mad Harry versus Mame. You've also got the annoying little mascot at the bottom. Right, so you press fire button and you get to pick one of the I've just made an arse of it. You get to pick one of the squares you can put side on. What happened there? Was that the computer? Yeah, that was Mad Harry taking his shot. The problem with when they make the balls so small, it's very, very difficult. I'm just putting a bit of bottom in the thing here. It's very difficult to really aim properly. I don't know why we've got that thing walking about the screen. Right, he seems to be walking to where the pocket's going to be. I mean, the actual movement of the balls isn't too bad. As we'll see later on, some of the movement, the C64 just isn't sort of physically able to handle that many moving objects. Or maybe it's just down to really bad programming. But the movement in this game, it's actually quite smooth, quite fluid. But again, just the sheer size of the balls does make it very difficult. I don't know why they've gone for light blue balls. They should have gone for maybe, I was going to say dark blue or red or something that's going to stand out a wee bit. Now that thing's quite annoying. I don't know what it just kind of breaks up the atmosphere of playing in a real game. So anyway, that is Q-Boy. Now this is where it all started for me. I bought this game way back. I mean, when was it released? It must have been 93. Yeah, 1983 it came out. You can see it's got the same movement, everything's the same as that earlier one we're looking at, Crazy Shot or something. But I played this a lot. I mean, me and my mate, we used to sit up in my bedroom for hours and hours, and we used to literally play this during the night. It became quite a competitive thing between us. Used to play like first 100 games, but it's very simple. I mean, you can see there the power bar just constantly moves, so all you really do is you line up the shot, wait for the power to get where you want, and then hit the fire button. There's no such thing as side or bottom or anything like that. So it's very limited, and some of the physics are a bit dodgy. I mean, if you hit this really hard, you'll see it will just you go shooting back. But you know what, we kind of got used to how the game played. It didn't really matter to us the fact that it's not particularly realistic. But there's quite a lot of different games to play. Unfortunately, you don't have a one-player game, or sorry, you don't have a computer opponent, so you relied on having somebody, a second player, to actually play the game with you. You could play like what I'm doing here, just potting balls, but you know, you've got to try and put it as in the sort of least number of shots, but it never felt the same. You always wanted to have somebody to play against. But I lost count the number of hours I must have played this game back in 1983, 1984. I mean, I played this one until I got that Commodore, the Commodore one that we looked at earlier on. That became my go-to pool game once I got that one. But this took up so much of my time. Loved it to bits. Looking at it now, yeah, it's very simple, but I think that was part of the appeal. It was just so easy to play. There was no fancy controls or anything. and it had great music as well. So yep. So that's Hustler. Now this third one, this is another version of the same game. Once again, same music, same graphics, same programmer. But this one they've called it Minnesota Fats Pool Challenger. Obviously this was for the American market. This is identical to the one we just looked at, albeit they've changed the colour. Instead of a green base, they've gone for a black. Exactly the same game engine. Yep. Moving on, this is, what is this called? This is called Pool. What is this called? No, sorry, it's called On Cue. This is called On Cue, this one. By Mastertronic. Now, strangely, instead of having different coloured balls, what they've done is they've actually gone for hollow balls. Well, I suppose you could say technically they're white. Now, there's the problem that I was talking about earlier on. For the C64 to move that many objects at once, everything just slows up so much. I mean, you can see there the balls are still moving about. Well, it's taking time to kind of process the movement. Well, that was a bit of a unlucky shot. Well, that was the computer right enough. Yeah, I mean, the actual movement of the ball is quite realistic. The physics look not too bad. It just doesn't really look like sort of pool or snooker. The balls look a bit rubbish. They could have quite easily have gone for, you know, red balls or something. Now at least I was able to actually pot that one, which is always good, because some of these games it becomes now impossible to pot a ball. Let's see if I can get this one. Nowhere near. And again, the sheer size of the balls just make it very, very difficult to actually line the shot up. But saying that, it still works. So I would say this is actually one of the better ones. At least it's playable. So yeah, I'm guessing it came out on the MAD label, which is Mastertronic's Added Dimension. I think it was slightly more expensive. I think it was £3 or something, but that's pretty good. That was On Cue. Right, this one here, published in 1985. It looks like it's a basic game. It was published in Compute Gazette back in 1985. Now you can see there the screen is absolutely minute. I mean, it's why you would put a pool or snooker game up and down a 4x3 screen. That's just ridiculous. There doesn't appear to be any way to adjust the strength of the shot. No, you just line it up and press the fire button. I suppose if it is written in BASIC, I suppose it's actually not too bad, all things considered. I mean, when you see some of the some of the games, the what do you call it, the basic games that you used to get in the Commodore 64, they were usually absolutely diabolical. So I suppose all things considered, this may have not been too bad, but yeah, it certainly wouldn't be my choice of go-to pool games if I was wanting to play a bit of this on the Commodore. That should have gone in. Anyway, that is Pool. Right, next one up is another pool. That's the title. Released in doesn't actually know. It was released by a company called Abacus Software. Now I'm guessing this is American pool because it's all the balls are numbered 1 to 15. So it'll be 9-ball pool you're playing here. Again, why they choose to... I mean, obviously a pool or snooker table is longer than it is wide, so why would you not rotate it 90 degrees and actually display it landscape? Why would you make a pool game up and down? That just seems a wee bit daft to me. You can see here the controls in this one. It's kind of like what there's some arcade pool games, and they used to, you actually went round the perimeter of the table like you did with this one to line the shot up, which isn't as intuitive as actually getting across here, because you could place exactly where you wanted the white ball to hit, but this one's a wee bit more hit or miss, no pun intended. But yeah, pretty basic stuff. That is a pool, it says by Abacus Software. Right, this is again called Pool, and this is actually by excuse me, Gremlin Graphics, no less, in 1987. So this is one of the sort of the first sort of big named companies to release a pool game. Now, if this, I'm not mistaken, is this not quite similar to the Master Point game that we looked at earlier on? Let's have a wee look at my list. I think it might have been. What was it called? There was one we did look at. Yeah, no, in fact it's... I'm actually just looking, I'm comparing the screenshot here, and if I'm not mistaken, this is exactly the same game as On Cue, which was the Mastertronic one, released in 1987. Yeah, this one was released in 1987 as well. So did surely this wasn't sold as a full price game. It actually plays quite well, I have to say, but rather annoyingly, it's got this sort of the little hollow balls which don't look quite so good. So yeah, I'm not going to spend any time in this. This looks like a rehash of the Mastertronic one, but this was published by Gremlin Graphics. That is Pool. Right, next up we have Rackham, and this is published by Accolade. And it was developed by a company called Artec Digital Entertainment, and it was actually released in 1988. So this is, you know, I don't like to use the phrase recent, but as far as the Commodore 64 game, this was one of the sort of later games. And again, Accolade, they published full price games. Now, you didn't see the very start, you did actually get to choose. You can play pool, you can play snooker. So you can see there the presentation's not actually half bad. Right, what am I doing here? It's asking me to nominate. Is this 9-ball pool we're playing, is it? Right, the annoying thing for me with this one right away is that table looks way too... It looks a lot longer. It's far too narrow looking. I've got no idea what happened there. Yeah, they've got this stupid... They've taken up a third of the screen with the... You know, the commentary. Do we really need that? I don't think we do. If I'm playing a game like this, I'd much rather they just went. They don't have to stick to strict dimensions. I mean, I think that looks way too long, that pool table. They'd have been far better going for the full screen for the table. Right, set the pool. What's going on? That's 2 attempts. And as yet, I have to actually make contact with a ball. Ball not driven to cushion. Yeah, you can see this is very American. So yeah, you've got to nominate a... Right, okay, so right, I've just moved the white ball, so that should hit the pack. English. That's another word, that's what the Americans called spin. Hey, I give up. I give up. That should have gone straight into the pack. I've got no idea why it's asking me to nominate a ball and pocket. Got no idea at all. We're going to make contact with it. Right, yeah, you know what? I give up. Absolutely give up. No idea why that's not going where it should. Yeah, that's Rackham, and that is by Accolade. Right, this next one, this is this is called Rack 'em Up, as opposed to Rackham of the previous one. This is a very early game. This was released in 1983 by a company called Rockland Core, and it was developed by a company called IDSI. Now it does look like an early game, black and white graphics. Aim, maim, fine, aim. Right, I'm not quite sure what's going on here. Push stick. Right, how do I move? Right, come on. Why is it not moving? Alright, right, okay, I'm setting the speed. Right, I don't know what happened here. Well, I've potted the ball anyway, at least. I don't know what game I'm playing. Is this 9-ball pool? It's hard to actually... All these balls look the same. I mean, you can see the 8-ball. Number 8. I don't know why they didn't just go for solid colours. That'd surely be a lot easier. Alright, I'm not overly sure how I'm actually aiming. It's when you're moving the joystick, it's moving between the different options. Ah, right, so left and right spins the aim around. I get you. Right, okay. And it automatically, the aim thing moves to the sort of the ball or the surface you're going to hit first. Right, I've kind of got it. Got to say though, it's actually not bad. The physics aren't half bad. Yeah, it's a bit dull looking. I mean, it looks like it looks like an Apple II game or something. Never ever heard of that game before. I mean, it is an English game, but I was never aware of this one at all. I'm not quite sure what I'm actually aiming for, but anyway, that's alright if I actually knew what I was doing. That is Rack 'em Up. I say that was released in 1983 by Rockland Core. Oh dear, it had to happen. Oh no! If you've ever watched my series, Is This Possibly the Worst Game Ever? You might have seen me play this game. Where do I start? Well, firstly, I'm going to put a link up above to the video I made of this game. This is one of the very first games I ever got a hold of from my Commodore 64. It was published by the Visions Software Factory in 1984, so it's not even an early game. Where do I start with it? It has got the physics of the game was obviously completely untested. I mean, you can see there I'm trying to split the balls up, and they act like nuclear particles rather than snooker balls. Watch my video up above. I says the physics are absolutely diabolical. I mean, you can aim a cursor straight at a ball that's 2 inches away and it will miss. And the pockets, they seem to make the balls square. You'll see that ball has become a square. The ball just needs to go near a pocket, and it's almost like a vacuum. It's like the vacuum thing out of bloody Marble Madness. It just sucks the ball into the pocket. there's no one player option in this game, so it's 2 player only. Now me and my mates, we did actually play this game. Whoa, my goodness, I actually potted a ball there. Oh, that's my dinner ready. I can just hear the oven thing going off. We did actually play this a fair bit, even though it was absolutely shit, but we played it because it was the only game. It was the only game that we had for the computer, so you know, we were massive pool fans, or massive snooker fans, so this was like a dream come true, even though we knew it was shit. But yeah, just watch, you'll see the link up above, watch that. It's hilariously bad, hilariously I should say bad. I says it was obviously the physics are just non-existent, or they're not non-existent, they're just shite. Yeah, anyway, go and check the video above. That is Snooker, and that was released by Vision Software Factory. Right, this next one, this is Steve Davis's Snooker, and this was released when was it released? It was released in 1985 by CDS Software. Now I remember playing this on my mate's Amstrad, and it was really impressive. It was really good. Now sadly the C64 one isn't quite as good. It's still very playable, still pretty smooth. It's got probably the most irritating music of any game I've ever held. It's it plays for 30 seconds and then it just repeats. Now I don't know if there's any way of turning it off, but it's quite funny when I heard it, when I was obviously playing this, it just it took me right back to 1985. You know, it's amazing how music and sound can just transport you back to a time. But yeah, it's actually pretty good. It's a good game. I don't know why they've got the big spaces between the reds, but it's smooth. The movement is smooth. The balls are maybe slightly too wee, but I guess they're probably in the sort of correct size, you know, for the table. And one thing I do like to see here is the table almost takes up the full size of the screen. Obviously you've got the sort of score at the bottom, but and obviously playing the great man Mr. Davis, he's going to absolutely annihilate me. I think there are different levels, I'm sure you could pick different skill levels. But if this game leaves you with anything or nothing, at least that tune will be in your head until yeah, driving you insane. It's just awful music. I don't know why they chose to include it. I think there was always a thing with game developers, they felt they had to include music, but you know, I don't think all games need music, certainly not a snooker game. So anyway, that's Steve Davis's Snooker. Let's look at the last one. No, apologies about chomping noise, I'm actually having my dinner as I'm making this. So right, this very last one, guys, is I didn't actually realise this was out in the Commodore 64. This is 3D Pool. Now it was published by Firebird and by Microprose Software, who made a lot of flight simulators. This was quite a sort of strange game for them to make. I used to have this on the Commodore Amiga. Now the Commodore Amiga, it wasn't the greatest game in the Commodore Amiga because it was quite quite sort of power hungry. It was kind of three-dimensional, so you know, the fact that it kind of struggled on an unexpanded Amiga, I don't know how they'd actually get it to work in a Commodore 64. Well, you can see here Mighty Mike, the computer player, is actually thinking, so it's obviously, it's either crashed or it's just going very slow. but probably just because it's, you know, the Commodore 64 is not reputed for its 3D processing power. Interestingly, I noticed that this game is actually programmed by Nick Pelling, also known as Orlando. Now, he did quite a few games. He did Zalaga on the BBC computer, and he also did Frack on the BBC as well. So there you go. Again, quite how he got that gig. Yeah, you can see there it's it's not as bad as I thought it would be, actually, when you think of what it's trying to do here. I mean, now graphically it just looks absolutely ridiculous, but I suppose the fact that you're able to spin the table round and zoom in and out is quite impressive. But it's probably something that should never have actually been attempted. I suppose you could technically play this in an emulator and speed it up and make it that wee bit more playable, but yeah, I would say this is more a technical demo than anything. But anyway, listen, that is it, guys. There's been some absolute howlers. I would say the majority of them aren't very good. For pool, I would probably go for the Commodore one, or the very, very first game, the 3D pool. That's quite good fun. For snooker, I think I would have to go for Steve Davis Snooker. That's probably the best of a bad bunch. It's not really a game suited for the Commodore 64. The graphics are just simply too wee. But as usual, guys, thank you very much for watching, and I'll catch you again later.